When is the best time to test your gear? Before you need it, just so we're clear. Okay, so it's supposed to rain for 3 days, and I just got a small break in the rain. Now it's just that Georgia like piss rain right now. And that means that it is time for us to go ahead and put up a shelter. Now this is my winter kit that I'm working on. I want to make sure that I work through some stuff before I actually show you the kit, because that's just how I roll. And one thing that I really need to work on is my ground game, because I just hate sleeping on the ground. I mean, even in the winter, I really prefer sleeping in my hammock. But there may come a point where you have to default to the ground, and so you need to be prepared for the worst and just hope for the best. All right, while there's a break in the action, this is the part where you need to be kind of tactically efficient. You need to be able to do this pretty fast. Here's our hook from last time. Man, isn't it nice when stuff like that works out? Now you'll probably notice I do have a pack cover on my bag. You can choose to wear a poncho and that can cover your bag. If you choose to go with rain gear like I'm wearing right now, then you've got to be able to protect the contents of your kit. So I'm just gonna undo that real quick, like slide that down. The next thing you'll notice is my pad. I'm gonna go ahead and get it out. Boom. Let's talk about pads. Now I'm kind of old school in that I just like the old school military sleeping pads. And the reason is because they don't fail. Now I don't want to say that I'm anti blow up mattresses, because there are some pretty good ones out there. If I was going to get one, it would probably be an X-Ped, and I think I would go for a 7R, and I would definitely get it in the mummy configuration as well. The problem that I have with blow up mattresses is I've just seen them fail too much, enough for me to say no, I just can't do it. I've had this thing for so long and it's just always worked, and so why fix it if it ain't broke? Now I talked about being tactically efficient, and the very first thing that I want access to is the actual shelter itself. And I'm gonna put this back up because wouldn't you know it, it's starting to rain. Yeah, keep that on there. Now at the top of this kit, that's where I keep all of my pre-rigged cords. You should have these, they will make you a lot faster. And of course, having access to the ridgeline immediately really speeds things up. And I really like having these fast action deploy ridgelines. It just makes everything so much easier. And to make this really fast, you'll notice I've got one of these wazoo carabiners on the end of it here. I'm literally going to just wrap it around and I'm gonna snap it into place, and I'm already attached to one end. Now these Prusiks, they're gonna come into play here in a little bit, but I'm just gonna leave them off to the side and I'm going to the other side. Boom, to the other side. Okay, normally what I do is I just tie an alpine butterfly into it. Let me see if I can do this fast for y'all. All right, so take a bite, twist it once, twist it twice, and what I want is to fold this down and come back through the middle loop right here. Just like this. It's very simple. Bam, pull it tight. There it is, an alpine butterfly. And the reason is because I want to change the direction. That way I can go ahead and tighten this ridgeline up really good. There, super tight. And all I'm gonna do, half hitch, nice and tight. I could pull it loose with this one right here. Super easy. Now we typically consider that a soft lock. If I wanted to, I could come back in here and I could tie this off, and now I have a hard lock. Easy. Now I'm gonna take this one Prusik and I'm gonna slide it down to the other side. Now I can just simply pull the tarp out and go ahead and put it up. And actually on this one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fly it in a diamond, and I'll explain that here in a second. Let's go ahead and just attach that first carabiner. Now we can come down here and attach the second one. Pull it tight. Now I can take one of my stakes and I can go ahead and attach it to this pre-rig that I got right here. I really like having these wazoo carabiners because they're just so fast. I mean, you really don't want to be like cutting cordage and stuff like that in a situation like that. I mean, look how fast it is. And there's one. Now I've got my other pre-rig and I've got this other stake. I'm just gonna put them together. Do the other side. And there's our second one. And you may be asking yourself, well, why did he put it up so high? If you're in inclement weather, don't you want it down kind of low? And yeah, that's true, but I can always change it. What I wanted was a place that I could actually work in. Now, if it was pouring rain, all I gotta do is take my stuff that I had out. I can put it right here in the middle and I don't have to worry about it. Now I can work underneath my shelter. Now you'll notice I put my bag down with the rain cover on the bottom, and I've got my pad right here. And what I can do is I can set it down, put my knees on there, and now I'm not getting my knees soaking wet on the ground, because nothing sucks worse than just being soaked up by the moisture from the ground on your knees. It's just really nice to have something to put your knees on so they're not getting soaking wet while you're doing stuff. Something else I can do is I can set that pad right there, and then I've got a nice seat underneath my tarp. I think one of the most underrated things in the industry is having something dry, a dry place to sit when you've been walking all day and you're sweaty and you're wet from the humidity in the air and all the stuff that's leaked, and just to be able to sit down for a few minutes and collect your thoughts. It's really the little things that boost your morale big time in survival. I mean, seriously, just being able to get out from underneath the rain and to be able to sit down for a few minutes, yeah, that's big. And now we have the freedom to take care of any issues that we need to take care of. Maybe it's changing your socks, repairing your gear, sharpening your knife, preparing your fire materials, eating something, making some coffee, tea, drinking some electrolytes. Whatever it is, we've got the freedom to actually do that. Now in Georgia right now, it is perfect hypothermia weather. It is down in the low 40s and it's pouring rain. And that's one of the worst things that could happen to you right now. Have you ever tried changing your clothes while you're inside your sleeping bag or you're inside of a mini shelter, some kind of microclimate that you made? That really sucks. And the last thing that you want to do is put moisture inside of whatever your microclimate is. So I really like to take this time to air everything out and get my mind right and take care of the tasks that I need to do before I start to shelter in place. I want to show you something, or to take note of it. If you look really closely, you can see literally with just me walking around here just a little bit, I've already started to stir up mud. And something that you want to do is you want to keep that at bay. Your clothes, your gear, it's not going to work properly if it's dirty. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they come in here and they start sweeping everything out, trying to get rid of sticks and pine cones and all that. And I do that, but I want to leave some of this leaf litter because now it's time for me to put out a ground cloth. Now, I talk about it all the time. You need to be tactically efficient. So whatever your ground cloth is, whether it's a trash bag, or in this case, I'm using one of the military survival blankets for this, just make sure you can get to it fast. And a lot of people say, well, does it work better if you actually, put the Reflectix up? I gotta be honest with you, I've tried it both ways. I really can't tell a difference. I think the main thing is you're creating a barrier between the ground and you. Now I can take my pack and I can lay it onto the actual ground cloth. And another thing I do is I try not to step all over my ground cloth. I try to keep my feet off of the end of it. And I just find that works better. Now I'm gonna grab my bivvy and I'm gonna go ahead and undo it, get it rolled out. Now, for some reason, I don't know why, but the MMS bivvy, it gets a lot of hate out there by the guys that are running, the super lightweight stuff. But I gotta tell you, I've had this thing for years and years and years. It has stood the test of time. I mean, I have literally stayed out in inclement weather with it pouring rain. And don't get me wrong, it was a little bit colder because the rain is actually hitting the outside of this bivvy. But I stayed dry. I mean, and that's the truth. And another feature that I want to point out is the zipper is on the side and the buttons are on the side as well. So I don't have to zip this thing up. If I had a center zipper like the Special Forces Snook Pack bivvy, I mean, you have to worry about the rain constantly. And if you have an exposed head, I mean, what good is that? It's not doing you any good. At least with this, you have the option of pulling this over your head and you can open this up and you can breathe from the side. I just really like this thing, and like I said, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that there's a fine line, like a compromise between, you know, the super ultra lightweight stuff and then having some bomb-proof gear that actually works. And like Jason says, you can be comfortable on the way, or you can be comfortable when you get there. For me, it's about the balance in between the two. Now this kit, with all my winter stuff in it right now, it only weighs 27 pounds. And that's not a lot. Now, another thing that I've done for years is, once again, I cut this in the shape of the mummy bags itself. You can see it's smaller on this end and larger on this end. I really like that a lot because it doesn't matter where I am in the bivvy, I never roll off of the pad. So all I do is I just roll this in the opposite direction in which it was rolled up, just to try to, you know, get it to flatten out a little bit. There we go. Now I can just put this into the actual bivvy itself. And as you can see, it fits perfectly. Now the next thing, I can actually get my jungle bag out of the pack. And I try not to compress it any more than I have to. And the reason is because you need to give it a little bit of time to fluff up, you know, so you're getting the best value out of that air pocket inside of the baffles. Now I can stuff this inside of here, close this up so everything stays nice and dry inside the bag. This is another layer of protection, so I just want to make sure everything stays dry inside the bag. Something that I want to point out is I couldn't do this with, you know, just a regular poncho. It wouldn't work. I mean, I have basically a 3 meter by 3 meter print right here. This gives me plenty of room to work. I have plenty of room right here that I can put my fire supplies, and I still have room to, you know, take stuff out of my pack and organize my gear and, you know, figure out what I've got. You know, it just makes everything nice and accessible, and, you know, I just really like having this kind of footprint to work in. And another thing you'll notice is that all of my thermal layers, which I'm going to have to really rely on here, are not compressed either. Now, y'all have seen me compress this down to like this size before in my Terra Humara, but, you know, in my Aston, I don't have to worry about that. I've got plenty of room. And also you'll notice that it's in a waterproof case as well. Just adds one more layer of protection to the system. And another thing I would say is don't take your rain jacket off immediately when you get underneath your shelter, because your body heat will actually serve to dry it out. So right now, with us just being underneath the shelter and me doing, you know, just a few small things or whatever, my rain jacket's already dry. Now, a lot of people are gonna say, well, you know, you could go do the pine bough thing and you could, you know, rake up a bunch of duff and leaf litter and all that, and you could put it underneath your bed. Well, something that I've been focusing on, especially the last year, is trying to do everything in a non-permissive environment. As a tracker, I know if I see somebody who's, you know, an area that's been raked all up and everything, I know somebody has been there. And really the name of the game here is to do as much as you can with as little as you can, and you don't want to disturb the environment any more than you have to. And these layers are working pretty good. It's actually pretty chilly. And that also goes for having a cold camp. I'm trying to camp without having to light a fire, and so I'm trying to do just as little as I possibly can. So tonight is supposed to get really cold, and I want to see if I can make it with just what I have here. One thing to note is I am really relying on my thermal layers to see if I can get past this. Last year, I did a ranger roll in the middle of winter when I was at Georgia Bushcraft. It was part of the 15-minute survival challenge in a military surplus store. And I gotta be honest with you, I froze my ass off. Unfortunately, in the store that I went to, they didn't have all the MMS stuff. And so that's what I truly wanted to do, was basically what you see right here. I was gonna use the patrol bag and the MMS bivvy bag together, and then I was gonna put a mat in it. And, you know, that's what my plan was when I went into the store. But, you know, hey, Murphy's always where you don't want them to be. You know, if it can go wrong, it's gonna go wrong. I had to deal with what I had. And so what I had was the Marines Marpat tarp. I used it in conjunction with a poncho liner or a whoopee. And unfortunately, I had to get up in the middle of the night, and I had to do exercises. And every time that I peed, it was like a gallon And the reason is because when it's super cold, your body's trying to get rid of all the stuff that it doesn't need. So the first thing that it does is it gets rid of the water. So I guess if you're trying to lose weight, you know, water weight, then just get cold. No, don't do that, but it would work. Now, I think the last thing in the system that I've got currently is I need a pillow. So this is my P&W Bushcraft food stuff sack is what it actually is, but I asked her to modify it for me and put some nice fluffy material on the inside here, and I can stuff this bag with, I don't know, whatever layers I'm not wearing at the time, or you know, if I had to, I could take the duff that's around me. Everything around me is soaking wet and I don't want to do that. So just whatever clothes I have left over, that's what I'm going to put inside of this thing. But having a pillow, I mean, that's the difference in having a good night's rest and not having a good night's rest. So yeah, pillow. So I'm gonna put that right there. Okay, so it's gonna be dark here in a little bit. So I figure what I'll do is we'll go ahead, and I don't know why it's not raining, because you know, the Weather Channel said 100% it's gonna be raining all day long. And for some reason we've gotten a lull, but I mean, you know their track record. Besides, this is Georgia, just wait 5 minutes and the weather will change. But I think we'll go ahead and take advantage of this and we'll change the configuration of our tarp. Release the hounds on both sides. Now, something that I'm really disciplined about is if I take something out, it goes back into the pack. And the reason is because, I mean, what if I had to, you know, de-ass the area really fast? I want to have as much stuff as I possibly can. You got to be as efficient as you can. You've got to be disciplined. Okay, and now we're gonna release the top on both sides. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna square it up. Square it up, I say. Now I'm gonna slide this about right there, I think. Now it's time to lower it. Well, bam. Okay, we can just take that loose. And I think what I'm gonna do is, because I want to get it pretty low, I'm gonna just go around the whole entire trunk like this. Snap that on. Yeah, that's about where I want it. For those of you that don't know, what we're actually doing is we are pitching the tarp rather than flying the tarp. Put that in one corner. Now we'll come down to the other corner. And you'll notice the water that came off of the tarp, see the bivvy, is waterproof. So now we just come to the far corner, put that one in, and bam. Now we can tidy things up a little bit. Yep. Yep. Boom. All right. Water off of there. Beads right off. Now I have the cords and the rest of my stakes. Boom. Straight back into the bag. Yeah. Now, as you notice, I don't have quite as much room, but I still have a lot of room. I've got it open on both sides. I could close it off. There's a way to do that. You put the stakes on the first guy line out, and then you move this one in, and you can basically close this off and have like a tent. But to be honest, I like to kind of keep things open a little bit so that I can see what's going on if I have to. Now, this is actually the first time that I've laid down on it. I don't feel any like lumps underneath it. And to be honest, I should have, you know, checked that out before I even lowered this thing down. Now, some tricks to stay warm. Obviously, I could close off the ends, and then I could take my UCO candle here. I could hang it from the ridge line, and I could light this and, you know, keep some radiant heat inside of here. I could also boil some water, put it into the bottle, throw it into the bag to keep me warm. And then I've also got the hot hands that I can, you know, put on my body or throw them in the bag too. But really the most important thing that I could do is I could drink some water, stay hydrated, and I could eat some food. Another thing, you know, if my socks are soaking wet at the end of the night, I just throw them into the bottom of the bag and it seems to work just fine. The next morning I wake up and my socks are dry. Now inside of here, this is where I keep all my thermal layers. What I will do is I will just take off my outer layers. I'll set them off to the side under here. I'll put on my thermal layers and I'll get inside of the bag. Now all we have to do is wait for nightfall and we can go to sleep. It's supposed to get right at freezing tonight, so, you know, we'll see how this system works. But I really think everything is gonna be just fine. I just wanna make sure. All right, it's been raining for a good while now, off and on, and I'm just getting ready for bed. I changed my socks, put on all my thermals, and I've decided to put everything under cover because it's just so humid right now that everything, if it's not covered, is soaking wet. Now I'm gonna put on my beanie, keep my head warm, and you know what sucks? Is I'm actually pretty comfortable, but I gotta get up and turn off the camera. See you guys in the morning. Oh shoot, no. It's actually warmer now than it was when I went to bed. What's that saying about 2 on the bottom is worth 2 on the top, or 1 or whatever? You know, the thing about sleeping in your yard is I know right now there's coffee in the coffee pot in the house, but I gotta finish this. Not the best night's sleep, not the worst either. Man, I hate being in cramped quarters too. Oops. Oh my God, just being outside just for a minute, it's wet. There's my hat. Not bad. All right. Whew, I actually had to take a layer off. Put on your boots. That is so not necessary this early in the morning. God, don't you hate having to dry stuff out after a night like this? All right, that was definitely better than the Ranger roll. I think it'll be better once we have some coffee. I know somebody wanted to see how this worked anyway, so. You know, things would go better if you just would pee. Just go pee. Just pee. Put that right there. Get our knife. There we go. Put everything back. I guess y'all are gonna want to see a close-up of that. Turn off the light here. Now we can just put our water on top, and then to help with the boil, put the lid on. And as you can see, once it gets going, it's burning pretty good. We'll have Ranger coffee in no time. All right, let's check it. Oh yeah, good to go. All right, let's do this. Take that off. Put that out. Boom. Put in our hot chocolate. There's our coffee. Stir. Now we can have our coffee. I'm coming outside. Nothing beats Ranger coffee in the morning. All right, well, I guess that sums it up. We made it a night unscathed. One thing that I love about camping out in my own yard is if there was an emergency, I'm good. I've seen way too many people in the industry and on YouTube go out into the wilderness and they're testing stuff and it doesn't work, and then it becomes real world. Now, I know some people don't have the luxury of sleeping out in their own yard, and I totally get it, but maybe you can go to a place that's somewhere safe with somebody and you could bring extra supplies with you just in case. Now, I should say that I don't have to use the MMS bivvy with an actual tarp, but golly, it helps. And if this was the real deal, I would have had to camouflage this thing, and there's a bunch of brush over there that I could have used for it, and I mean, I definitely wouldn't have been in this spot anyway. I would have had to search around for the right spot, and then I would have had to have been ultra careful in making all of it happen. It's definitely morning. Here come the cars and the buses. Can't even have 15 minutes apiece. All right, y'all, I guess that's my cue. I got to get in the house. I got to start editing and get this video uploaded so y'all can check it out. So if you're Honey Smack digging the video, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and until next time, keep fueling those fires.